All right. Hello, everyone. I am joined by David Macvaugh. Did I pronounce your last name correctly,
You
David?
did. You did.
Okay, great. And this is the September episode of the Rainbow Inspirations, which is brought to you by AARP and Blue Ridge Pride Generations Plus. It's, a way that we can tell our stories and keep our stories alive and listen to what can inspire us about others. David's an artist, and you'll hear more, but we were just talking a little bit about creativity and art and how I'm inspired by the creativity of others, and it really moves me to eventually create my own. So I hope that you too will be inspired today. Today we have kind of a different angle. We're speaking with an ally. In general, the Rainbow Inspirations events have been really focused on members of the LGBTQ community, people who identify. And David identifies as an ally, and he's got an awesome story. So we're going to hear a little bit more about that. Feel free to comment at any time in the comment box. We can respond to you live. So I met David because he knows one of our volunteers who lives in the Flat Rock area in the tiny home community there. So yeah, David, tell us just a little bit like how you came in to identify as an ally.
That's a great question, and I often think about it myself. I wonder how I became an ally. Well, that's a good question. I didn't even know what an ally was until I started doing my own work, my own personal, spiritual, emotional work in the Mankind Project,
Hmm.
and that's where we learned about all different kinds of people on the planet and what it meant to be a privileged white male and the things I had that others didn't have, and we learned about being an ally, and it just made sense. I grew up in a family that was full of love, and I think it became more relevant to me as each of my three children came out to me.
Mm.
Um, they're well represented on the LGBTQ spectrum, and each came out to me in their own time in different stages of their lives. And I felt so fortunate to be able to say, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing with me and having the courage to tell me, and I love you, and I think that's really cool. And how can I support you? It was just very easy. It was as if, they were telling me about the different colors of their hair. It was just such an easy thing for me to do. And I realized that there are a lot of parents and family members that are struggling with that. But for me, it was easy. And that was part of my journey to being an ally.
Wow, what a blessing, that it was easy for you. And although I can imagine it could have had challenges for your children, but that you could receive them with such acceptance. That's a real, that's it's beautiful that it worked that way. This your answer leads me to a question I didn't plan, but a question that I have, which is, what are you learning about yourself? You kind of talked about the Mankind Project and your spiritual journey. What are you learning about yourself in relationship to your children as an ally and an ally in general?
Well, and it has to do with mental health,
Okay.
oddly enough, or maybe not oddly enough, but
Mm.
the idea that I remember Wayne Dyer saying that, the difference between feeling good and feeling God was only the letter O, the additional O in the word good. And Wayne Dyer was one of my heroes. So it's like, how do I feel good? And
Mm.
oftentimes I noticed that I would feel bad or feel depressed when I was in my judging, condemning, why aren't people more like me mode? And I realized that I was healthier and happier and more full of joy and love when I accepted. And sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes, I find myself in the judgment mode and I feel my mental health declining. And when I'm in the loving, accepting mode, I'm happier. So that was really a key point in how do I become happier? It came from acceptance.
Oh my, that's inspiring. And I think we all can take something from that journey of acceptance right now in this time of great divisiveness that, when we're in an accepting, loving mode, we feel better. And I really just appreciate that sentiment and reminder. It's a choice in a way. Do you still run up against roadblocks? And, you mentioned you alluded to having some roadblocks and feeling accepting. I'd love to hear more
Well,
about that.
yeah, and I think that is where the work and duality comes in.
Mm,
Just understanding that the difference is. And there's a part of me. I mean, that's what I did in corporate America was help organizations to change. And there's a part of me that realizes the difficulty in changing mindsets. And so my structure really is, 67 years old, is to emulate my heroes, Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King, and just be the change that I want to see in the world. So that's the
Yeah,
process.
it is a process, isn't it? Hmm. So you mentioned white privilege and Mankind Project. I'm a big fan of Mankind Project, even though I haven't been through the Mankind Project personally. It just seems like it really touches people deeply. So, being a white man with privilege, like what's your vision, and how have you used that for to be the change that you want to see?
Mm. The privilege goes even beyond the white educated heterosexual male. The privilege goes back to the loving family that I grew up with. I mean, that's how I was brought into the world,
Wow.
and I don't know how you integrate that into mature humans. I don't know how to go about that. That was at a cellular level. I learned about love. I think we talked about my upbringing as a grandfather was a minister, and the only thing I remember from my 18 years of Sunday school and church was the nursery rhyme, "Jesus loves the little children,"
Hmm.
and all the children of the world, red and yellow, black and white. So the love theme was always a part of my upbringing. I mean, that was at a cellular level. That's who I am.
Hmm.
Um, and how do I integrate that now? Well, I think in terms of where I can and when I can, the acceptance and the love. I think there's ways that I'm falling down on that area too. I remember in the Mankind Project, we were encouraged to integrate into people that were different than me, that looked differently than me, into their families, and they into my family, and have meals together and share together and be together. And I think I'm failing miserably in that respect. So I still have a lot of work to do in terms of integration, in terms of acceptance, in terms of making it more
Mm,
normal to be with people that aren't like me. And I do that with my children, but I still think I have a lot of work to do.
yeah, me too. Thanks for saying that. That's a good opportunity for growth for all of us, and that's inspiring. That's that edge that helps us become more integrated. So, cool. Thank you for your wisdom. Um, I'm curious about one way it seems like you use your privilege is through your expression in the arts. And we were talking a little bit about that before we started the broadcast. But tell us, a little bit about your story with art and how you have used that as a medium to
Mm,
express the message of love.
that's interesting. I certainly do it through my teaching and my mentoring, and I like to work with wood. And my latest piece is The Sphere of Love. And that came to me last September in the most unusual way. I, uh, I don't normally do projects like this, and I got this divine inspiration to create this piece, and it was planted in my mind as a little seed, and wouldn't leave me alone until I actually completed it.
Wow.
So we're seeing pictures of it now. There's a video of it on YouTube, and it's actually in a gallery in Asheville. And this is the sphere of love. And so I was asked to make this. You asked me who asked me, and I don't know that I can tell you. It was just its divine inspiration. So I figured out how to do it mechanically, but I didn't know why I was being asked to make this thing. So I realized that I
Mm,
have my children. One of my children's bisexual, one of my children is asexual, and one is transgender. And my good friend Tina White from Blue Ridge Pride said, "Well, you've won the trifecta."
hmm,
And in fact, I have. I have the most wonderful children. They teach me all the time. I'm just so grateful to be with them. But I love them unconditionally. So I didn't understand why I was being asked to make this celebration of LGBTQ in the community. So I had to ask for help. Um, as a person of privilege, I don't have at a visceral level an understanding of what it is that people that don't have my privilege are wanting. So I interviewed over 200 people in the community and asked them what the rainbow flag meant to them. And the conversations that ensued were just remarkable. Some of the older people that I talked to talked about the days where they didn't feel safe, and some of the younger people talked about community and safety and peace and
Mm.
inclusivity. So this piece came about because I had to learn something. I didn't know what it was that I took for granted. And so the sphere of love got created, and the words that are inside actually came from the interviews from those 200 plus people. And I had an unveiling of this piece. It's large. It's about 5 feet in diameter. I had an unveiling here at my home, and there were over 50 people that came to see it. And the part that I didn't expect was the emotions that came out that evening, the tears of joy, the tears of sadness, and the conversations that ensued. What's really cool is that you lay underneath of the sphere to get a different perspective. And I was laying underneath of the sphere with one of the people that had come to the event, who was a woman of color. And I said, "What's going on for you?" And she says, "Well, I'm aware," and this is an intelligent person, by the way, very intelligent person, was looking up through the sphere. And she said, I'm aware of those concepts that are floating around inside, the inclusivity and the acceptance and the community, but I really don't know what they are. I don't know what they mean. And I said, "Well, what do you need to do?" She goes, "Well, I need to go stand up and go get them." And as she did that, she looked inside of the sphere, and the only word that she was able to see from her from her view was the word acceptance. And she said, "That's all I've ever wanted my entire life, was to be accepted." And tears just streamed down her face because that's all she's ever wanted. And I thought, wow, this piece that I got to create actually touched somebody. And so that's the significance of my privilege and able to put this together so that it creates conversations with people that might not ever be able to have that kind of conversation.
Wow. Yeah. And experiences. I mean, it sounds like you experienced something together in being with the piece. So cool. So, I mean, if anyone has any questions, feel free to post those in the comments or questions there. I know, I have a question about the words and how are the words really a part of the piece that I see? Community, safety, acceptance. Are they inside the piece? Are they outside the piece? How's that work?
They're inside the piece. And if you look at the piece and think in terms of the world, it's supposed to represent our earth, our world. And the words are inside because they're inside of all of us. And for me, I got those things for free. I got the safety and the community and the acceptance and the inclusivity. I didn't have to earn them. And so for me, it's an awareness of that privilege. It's also an awareness of there are others who do not have those things for free. And that's hard to sit with. And I think about my kids. And my youngest being transgender, literally being himself is a life-threatening endeavor. And that's a problem for me, why people can't just be themselves. And so I hope that this piece, I hope that it makes it to a museum or makes it to some place where people can have conversations about what this means, about the LGBTQ community, and that it brings people closer together.
It, yeah, I'm excited about that too. And thanks for going a little deeper into, that listening process you did and understanding that you get those things for free and that other people don't, and that's a problem because ultimately we're all connected, and it's a problem because it's your child that I'm sure you love and want to protect. So I really hear that. So interacting with this piece of art, you mentioned that it's at a gallery right now. Where is it? How can people learn more?
Well, first of all, I had a friend do a YouTube video that's about a minute and a half, and it's brilliant. He did this as a gift for me, and it's on YouTube. And if you look up Sphere of Love, it comes up immediately.
Whoops. Yeah, I was just gonna try to look it up real quick, but It's too hard to say.
And you hear I'm doing a voiceover and talking about the sphere in some detail on what it means to the community. It is in the it's called Marquis, is the gallery in the River Arts District. And Marquis is having a celebration of Pride Month. September is Pride Month in Buncombe County. On September 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m., there are 3 artists that are going to be featured in the gallery, myself and 2 others, with the theme of the LGBTQ and Pride Month. So I invite everybody to come see that. I'll be there speaking, and you'll be able to see the other great pieces there. Yeah, the Sphere of Love, the YouTube video is just extraordinary. Just the film footage and the voiceover was just extraordinary that I had that as a gift.
It's
And
beautiful. I have seen it, and it is fun to watch, and it's
it's
very
fun.
inspiring. It's well done, and it's beautiful. Did I do Marquee right here, the Marquee Gallery, or is that spelled correctly? Okay.
That's it. That's it. Yeah, in the River Arts District.
September
Um,
22nd. So yeah, that's a place. We'll invite everyone to go there. And what if people want to learn more? Like what if somebody who has a gallery or museum is watching this and they want to, connect with you? Is there a good way for them to do that?
well, yeah, either a phone call or email or
Okay.
is a good way. Both ways
I
work
will.
for me.
Okay. I will be sure to put your email address just on the screen real quick so that if people want to, be in touch with you about this project, I mean, it's so amazing. So I'd love for others to have the opportunity. So we only see each other on the screen these days. So I'm imagining you're big. You're tall because you've got the Bigfoot Dave email
Right,
address.
right.
Okay,
That
that's
comes from
true.
my hiking days on the Camino
Oh,
de Santiago and the Pacific Crest Trail.
oh,
So yeah,
cool. So, moving forward, you have offered a little bit of this, but I'm curious if you have any advice. With AARP, many of our volunteers who are heteronormative are always asking, like, "Oh, what words do I use? I don't understand this. How do I be an ally?" They want to be accepting, but there is so much fear and so many just kind of self-imposed blockages. They don't want to be politically incorrect. They don't want to offend anyone. What advice would you give to somebody else who was really wanting to take their place as an ally?
hmm. I think first and foremost for me is coming from a place of love in all my interactions. Don't always do that, but that's my intention. And I think honoring for instance, with the pronouns,
Hmm.
I trip up constantly, but my intention is to get them right. With my middle son, it's they them, and with my youngest, it's he him. My oldest doesn't have a preference, and I get it wrong. I recently went to have a birthday celebration with my youngest trans son, and I said, "I'm so proud of you, baby girl." And I was just like, "Oh my God!" After 21 years, I'm so used to, and I screw up, and he knows that I screwed up, and he knows that I come from a place of love, and that we're both learning, and so I think the place of love is the important part, and the willingness to learn the new language and to practice the new language, and
Hmm.
is the best I can do. I think now maybe I can do better, um,
Hmm.
but paying attention and coming from a place of love, I think, is important.
Hmm. That's great. And that simplifies things quite a bit, for the very brainy types who think and think and think about how to do things right. I think that what you're describing is more about going to a feeling place and coming from there. You just do your best.
Do your
It's great.
best. My I have a dear friend that's trans, and I asked for advice one time, and he said, it's really interesting. I find comfort in having a conversation about my transition. I just love sharing with people what I'm going through, and they're curious, and that brings us closer together. But I realize that's not true for everyone. I know with my youngest, funny story. when Luke, my youngest, came out to me, we were talking about how to support, and he said, "Well, and this is when he was much younger. He says, I really could use a binder." And I said, "Well, this is the beginning of the school year," and I said, "Well, can't you use some of the binders from last year, and we'll go to Staples and we'll get some new binders." And Luke's like, "Dad, that's not what I'm talking about. I need something to." So it was those kind of conversations that was bridging the gaps between this old dude and that's trying to learn, and where my youngest was coming from. So I think it's the conversation coming from the place of love is the best I have to offer.
I appreciate you sharing that story that I think is, very relatable. And yeah, for those of you who, don't know about what a binder means, it helps to compress the chest and when somebody's in a transition. And I can imagine lots of people might not know, what that means if they are not in the culture and community. So thank you for sharing that. Let's see here. Um, yeah, so I guess one of the final questions that I had was just you strike me as somebody who strives for more unity consciousness. Like, this is a very divisive time in a lot of ways. There's a lot of fear going on out there, and I'm curious, like, what you do within yourself and how you would, what words of inspiration that you would like to share with others around creating more sense of unity and connection. And you've already given us a lot of that. So, but what else is there? What else would you say about how we can overcome some of this divisiveness?
Hmm. So I think that for me, the most important part was finding out who I am, um, at my root, at the root level. I know that, and through recovery and through therapy and through the Mankind Project and just a lot of contemplation and meditation, that I've got to be the very best person I can possibly be. I know back in the days of when I was using, it was very easy for me to try to elevate myself by um, being critical of others, privileged or not, by putting someone else down. It's a very standard sort of practice that I see a lot of. And so when I got good with who I am, I didn't feel the need um, to judge or to suppress other people, and just find a place where I could accept everyone. It was really important, but that meant I had to do my own work, which is very, very difficult. It's so much easier to reach out into the world and say, why doesn't everybody else change to be the way I am? And what I found through recovery is that doesn't work. So doing my own emotional work, being the best person I can possibly be, is really what I did. And I don't know that that's a universal solution, but that's what I did to become whole myself.
And it seems like you're still doing it. It's like,
Still doing it. Yeah.
who inspires you? Who do you look to for, um, where you
Hmm.
mentioned Wayne Dyer, but I'm curious, there are others that you look to help keep you in that frame of mind.
Hmm. So I would say my guru would be somebody on YouTube, oddly enough. His name's Mooji,
Hmm.
Mooji. And he talks about this place. I call it going home, this place where I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. I've forgotten all about everything that I've learned and who I am and what the conditioning that I've received. And it's such a happy, fulfilling place to be in. It's a meditation. It's not anything to do with my gender or my education or my. It's just that place that's neither mind nor body. I call it going home, and I want to spend more and more time there. So I tend to do the things that bring me that joy of that place of going home.
Mm. Isn't that a paradox? I'm just thinking of my own life and I can relate with that. finding that place inside of myself of peace, of coming home, of kind of free of ego in as much as I can experience at this point. And yet, in contrast, it's like sometimes living in those edges that can push us to grow, the less peaceful states, the place where we're working to integrate and, invite in people who are unlike ourselves. So, yeah, I'm just kind of aware that there's a bit of a dichotomy to how we move forward. But I appreciate the slice of inspiration that you have offered us today and that you offer in your community and your family. Thank you for joining us here. And hopefully, if you enjoyed this episode of the Rainbow Inspirations, you just share it, share the video, share the good news, share the care, share the love. We will be back. I think it's October 5th, the first Wednesday of October, with our next episode. And we will be having a few Generations Plus, will be having a few other features online coming up on voting and other important things that, we can do to be a part of the change that we want to see. So I will put up there Blue Ridge Pride Generations Plus is where you can find out more about our events and activities. I'm going to put up the image one more time of the sphere of love. I'd love to leave y'all with that message, that inside of your consciousness, and a reminder of where you go if you want to see the piece in person. Thank you so much, David, for being here with us today. And until the next time, I'll say goodbye.
Thank you.